Welcome to the Ultimate Fantasy Locker Room, starring Antone Davis, Rocky DeStefano, Delano Williams, and Phil Anthony. Fantasy football, real results.
Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Fantasy Locker Room.
The boys are back.
And
Was it busy?
It might be the pastiest of the Delano fill-ins. Delano's had a rough couple weeks, guys. He's been gone on vacation and then came back, and he's been sick and under the weather. So,
yeah, what's going on with him?
I'm Delano this week, I guess.
That's going to be tough.
Try to be witty.
You going to dance?
Yeah, I'll dance a little bit. So, anyways, welcome to our show. And tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be answering some questions on fantasy football, kind of a year in review for 2020. So, how are you guys doing? What's going on with your life, your weeks? What's up?
For me, it's been the same for the past couple weeks. I have a new job in a surgery center that we're starting from scratch. So every day is just policies, procedures.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Putting stuff on the wall, putting trays together. It's insane. I can't even remember what I did before that. That's how stressful it's been.
So do you see
this
the
is
light?
like a relief?
Is a light at the end of the tunnel? Or
No, it's still not there because we're not scheduled to open until February. So
wow.
yeah, so there's still a lot more to be done.
But it's probably nice not having the constant patience and so forth.
Yeah. It's a different kind of busy. You know, it's a little bit more relaxed, but yet stressful.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard to describe. How
can
about you
imagine.
guys? What's going on?
Happy New Year, by the
Happy
way.
New Year,
right?
yeah, happy
Oh,
New
yeah,
Year.
this is the first show. since
New
we-
year, new me,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Yeah. Is it
We're
going
off
to be?
to a great start,
Yeah.
right?
So should we talk about that a little bit? So we
I mean,
have.
we can. I don't know if I want that back out.
We're going to remind it. Phil's going to have this right up here by his beer somehow. We got the Harry Styles weight loss challenge, and I'm not going to mention what our starting weights are.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, because of an absolute embarrassment. Like
pretty bad.
seriously,
I don't want that
it's-
information.
You don't
out.
feel like if we put ourselves on complete blast though that
You can.
we'll be more
Well, first of all,
inclined to lose the weight.
Antone never checked in with his weight.
Well,
so,
I look the way I look, so it's pretty.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I will say this. I was shocked when I got on the scale.
I
Like,
wouldn't. No.
I was shocked in a non-positive way to realize how much weight I put
What
on.
did you think you were?
I thought I would still be at least. I thought I'd be 10 pounds lighter than what I was. I got to be honest.
That's not that bad.
That's what I was looking at least 15 pounds lighter than I was, already knowing that I was probably at
delusional.
least 40 pounds overweight.
Now I will say, and I kind of mentioned this to these guys already, but like, I mean, I hit it. Like I knew the weight loss challenge was coming.
Yeah.
And I ate like a freaking tribesman all
Went
weekend.
nuts.
Like,
Yeah, I
oh,
did
I
the
went
same
crazy,
thing.
man.
I did the same thing. Mark let it roll in. He's going through a whole week, I think. He's doing a power week.
So he hasn't started yet, is what you're saying.
I do this thing where I like to self-sabatage.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I see my goals in front of me and I'm like, what can I do to do the complete
Let me
opposite?
tell you what, my weekend was it was filled with Tostino's pizza rolls, candy, beer, and shame.
You're
Just
looking
a
at
lot
an
of
early
shame.
heart attack.
It was one night I thought.
You're an old man.
It was one night I thought, one more bite, this could be the last thing. Like it could, am I ready to end it? It's kind of what I was looking at, but
Oh my God.
I put it down. I didn't do it. So anyways,
I had the perfect opportunity to get off to a great start. The scale is upstairs in our bathroom, and the batteries were dead. And I had already been downstairs, so I could have gone into the garage, gotten batteries, gone
Yeah.
upstairs, put the batteries in, weighed myself, came down, and then texted everybody what I weighed.
you just
But
guesstimated.
I'm not trying to lose it all in one day. You know, you got to pace myself.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. But,
Gabby, you've started in the gym already, right?
Yep.
How's it going?
do you look forward to working out?
I'm actually enjoying working out, I think,
Yeah.
for the first time in my life.
Liar. Yeah, liar.
It's like going to school, like when you're young and you like my daughter loved it the
couple
first 2
days.
months.
Yeah.
No, it's nice because I go with my boyfriend. So we have
Is
somebody
he?
else
Because
there.
we didn't officially get him in the weight loss.
I don't think we
Oh,
need
he'll
him.
join.
Yeah, but we want to lose some weight, don't we?
I
feel like you're trying to pawn off all the pounds on other people.
I'm looking for a guy 500, 600 large to come join our.
I say
contest.
the more the merrier.
Well,
course.
let's talk about this. Gabby has dedicated herself to losing. I think I put you down for 30.
Yeah, I have something to say about that because
Yeah.
I never said 30.
He just said 30 for
You said
everybody.
30 when I was like, well, damn, I guess I need to lose 30.
No, I actually
I
thought you
guess so.
texted 40,
No.
and I thought that was way too much. So maybe I mixed up the text.
You probably because I said how much I would like to weigh. But
Okay, that's probably
before
it.
that I said like 15 realistically.
Okay.
Let's give that. But you know what? I'm gonna go for the 30. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna because I could amend it, but we got Gabby at 30, we got Mark at 30.
Thank you for doing that because I was looking at possibly having to lose at least 5 more pounds to split that 15
yeah.
pounds
But
3 ways.
I mean, aren't we just trying to lose it?
Collectively.
Collectively.
But
Yeah.
I
So
was
I
trying
mean,
to,
does it really?
King? Yeah, but King said he's gonna lose 30. You're gonna lose 30. You said.
Yeah.
Say 30. You said
Well, that's my target.
target. So we'll give you 30 to start with.
You got to be careful what you say to Rocky because he just runs with it.
Listen,
I think I could lose 30.
I'm
No,
trying.
I think he can too. But I mean,
Oh
he's
wow,
very.
jeez.
That's encouraging. I'm not even saying I think you need to.
Kind
So
of.
this shows where your brain is at. I'm just saying I think I was
Well, we
supporting you.
got
It's
just
fine.
in this room, we got 120 pounds of it knocked out.
Not well. We don't have anything knocked out.
Well, we got a couple pounds knocked out here.
Yeah.
already.
Okay. No, my pounds are mine.
When is the cutoff date? A year?
Yeah, he's
I
gonna.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
we
we could
kinda
lose
lose
more
a
than
little.
150 pounds. We should be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should.
Yeah.
We should be able to lose, gain some, and then lose it back.
Yes.
Well, how long do we have to still keep gaining weight before we start
I
losing?
mean, that's up to
It's
you.
up to
buddy.
you.
When's the start
you want to
point?
live on the edge of disaster? Go ahead. I mean, it's up to you. It's all.
But if you gain weight from his initial weigh-in, is that like a?
That's what I'm saying. The
Is that a
initial weigh-in.
negative?
well, that's the troubling thing is that Shawnee, who was on last week, he's dedicated to gaining 10 pounds for us.
and you still included him for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, anyways,
Just get rid of him.
we got Jared. Delano's said he's gonna lose 15, and King said he's gonna lose 30. So we're waiting on Antone, but between all of us, we could easily hit the 154, and we could be down a Harry Styles.
So
Nice.
are we gonna do like a weekly check-in?
I think we should. Yeah, I think just
Think weekly or maybe?
I mean, what do you think?
I guess
like
weekly would
weekly's
be.
good.
Weekly's
We're here
easy to do.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing we can't do is we can't because everybody weighed on their own scale. So we
gotta
have to
get an
trust each
official-
other.
Well, we could get an official scale.
It just sounds like a good way to let the listeners down every week. Is
Yeah.
what it sounds
Well,
I
like.
feel like nobody's gonna lie.
no,
Right?
Somebody might lie.
no.
Well, then that's their own.
And you would never know.
It's a good
problem.
question. Has anybody ever lied in a weight loss challenge before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course. What do you mean?
So somebody will lie and it'll be Phil.
Didn't the biggest losing the guy with Antone
no,
like
I'm talking
cheat him?
about of us.
Oh no! I'm saying just in general. I'm sure people have lied.
So what we'll do is come in every episode and we won't say what weight we're at. We'll say what we've lost. We'll kind of keep a running
Yeah.
total.
So like
So-
how many pounds we've lost from the previous week?
So
right?
total honor system then.
yeah.
Or do we want to say how many pounds total each of us have lost by that week?
I am fine with doing the total pounds each.
Lost or
Or do you
the
want it
weight.
combined?
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Let's do
No, we should make it individualized
Yeah.
a little bit, right? Because
we
it makes it more of a
because we may have to
No,
like
I'm
put
saying
pressure.
like
on.
so next week we go do a what's it called?
weigh in.
Yeah. Sorry. There was like a beeping noise. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, it was throwing me off. But anyway, so we do a weigh-in, and I'm like, okay, so I'm 5 pounds lighter than last week. Are we doing it by 5 pounds, or am I like, well, I've lost 10 pounds total since we started?
Well, if we're gonna be updating every week, we just got to add on the pounds that we lost. We're gonna have to every week when we announce, somebody's got to write down and add it up. But you got to announce the new one, right?
Right. Yeah.
Instead of just saying total.
Weekly
well, we're
sounds
not
too
we're-
much. I think
we're not
monthly.
announcing
This is getting
the
boring.
weight.
Sure is.
Yeah. We're not announcing the weight. We're announcing.
We'll figure it out.
yeah.
off
We're
air.
announcing
Speaking of
how much we've lost.
dead weight, the little story you were telling me about yesterday. I don't know
Which
if you
one?
want to tell the
Oh no.
tell the
that's kinda
folks out there.
embarrassing.
What's embarrassing about it?
So
You know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay. So listen. This is who I am. It is what it is. At one point, I think I was a pretty good looking guy.
Oh, okay.
And not so much anymore. I mean, age is it's a terrible foe, and we've talked about weight loss, so obviously I'm a little bit heavy, but we had a house that we were doing some work in a garage, and the lady may have thought that she had found her baby's daddy, but not because of I look good, but it had to be because she thought I had money is the only thing I could think of.
Well, you were talking to her kids for a while, too.
Well, her kids wouldn't leave me alone. I was like working on the garage, and I kept trying to keep the kids out of the garage so that she didn't think I was any kind of pedophile.
That's a big step that she introduced you to the kids already, too.
So here's what happened. He's
out there working with his hands.
Her kids are just like running, biking and all that. Yeah. And then they come, they're talking to me, and they want
guys, come here.
No, I didn't. Here's some candy. No, I didn't say it. So they wanted to come in the garage.
He's giving out Chick-fil-A.
They were curious about like what we were doing in the garage and all that. And so I'm trying to keep them out. And so I said, well, maybe sometime you can bring your mom or your dad and they can see the room, because I figured that way, hey, get out. I'm trying to work and
make it a family thing.
And then sure enough, mama comes down. Yeah. There's no daddy,
no dad.
Yeah, and
classic.
Yeah, and
giving you all types of rhythm.
She wasn't giving me any rhythm until she realized I own a Chick-fil-A, and then suddenly, like, I became interesting. You know what I'm trying to say?
What was she doing that she was indicating to you?
Oh, I wasn't there, so
she asked him to hang multiple things in the house.
Yeah.
But he told me.
I'm not going to mention. There's a vibe. Is it true? There's a vibe.
There is a vibe.
Yeah, that you get.
But you can misread a vibe.
I didn't misread a vibe. She saw the size of my wallet and said,
okay. Is that what you think?
Easy Street. Yeah.
Speaking of which, the help that you have here, do you keep them on the premises, or are they separated from the home?
We have a wing, on the estate.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. We try to keep some separation. We don't want to know everything. I don't want to know how the sausage is made. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just want my toilet.
Just want to eat it.
It's. Anyways, all right. So. Maybe we should move toward our first section. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Probably a good idea.
We're going to go with our recap here, right?
Yeah, cool.
Gonna do biggest surprise?
Backups, feel good about our tight end.
We got to have our
I forgot that was coming.
I feel good about our two running backs.
I was trying to sneak it in, but you just kept talking.
Nope. Sorry about that.
All right. It works.
So let's recap our biggest surprises first. We'll go through each skill position. So starting with quarterbacks, I'll lead us off here.
You going surprises first, you said?
Is that what you want to do? You want to do surprises or busts?
We'll go. Yeah, I think surprise is probably better to lead it off on a positive note.
Yeah, I kind of like that surprise. Good surprise.
Yeah. I think for me, it was probably our good friend, Mr. Air Bear, at quarterback. I think coming in his rookie season, I mean, very fortunate how he started off the year, thanks to a blunder by the medical professional in the Chargers locker room. He got a couple of impromptu starts where he just torched it. And then when it was time for Tyrod Taylor to potentially come back, that's when they called it on a season. They said they were going to shelf him. And Air Bear ended up having a really good fantasy point season.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the easiest one, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
As much as people thought he transitioned well to the league, I don't think anybody thought it would look the way it looked either.
Not that fast. It was very fast.
Yeah.
And he missed a game?
Sorry, I stole your guy.
He did miss a game. No, I did have somebody else in mind.
You're struggling with that fly.
Yeah, I got him. I just got him. He's dead.
It got you beat, man. You were jumping like a little scared of that.
So the guy I'm going to go with is Kirk Cousins. He wound up finishing 11th, and I mean, I don't know, coming into the year without a real rushing floor, I kind of imagine he'd be closer to the middle of the pack. I mean, he's there, but he's actually closer to the top 10 than he is the middle of the pack. Diggs leaving, Justin Jefferson being a revelation. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he was probably around the same spot or maybe cracking the top 10 next year, because I'm not sure Tom Brady is going to still be there next year. And there's a couple other guys I think is shift around a little bit too.
Cousins is crazy for me. He seems like a guy that you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. He hits a streak, and he had a streak, I think, of 6 games where he was top top 12, top 10.
It's funny though. If you watch his games, you can actually see that at times he doubts himself.
Yeah.
You know, because like he really gets fired up when he sees that he's producing on the field and that he's kind of proving his doubters wrong.
It's kind of adorable. Yeah. so a surprise, and there's a couple I had in mind. I'm going to say one that's a very short sample size, but has promise is Jalen Hurts. But I think the guy that overall this year at quarterback surprised me was Baker Mayfield. I think he actually was not a top line start, but he was a startable QB for about half the season, which was a lot better than I expected.
That's fair. I mean, he still was.
Seemed like he had a revolving door with receivers all year.
Yeah,
That too, yeah. I mean, that's
he had
fair.
he had a rough go of it, but after Odell went out, he had a couple bad weather games, but after that, he threw, I think it was 25 touchdowns against 1 interception.
So going into next year, you feel comfortable rostering him at the beginning of the year, knowing that they're going to want to run the ball.
Yeah. Second year in the same system, Odell Beckham Jr. back. Yeah.
Odell going out was just plain shitty.
Yeah, especially how he went out. And, the fact that he really was a good teammate, like, doing everything right.
Yeah.
Fighting hard on an interception, it kind of sucks.
It does suck. So what do you got for running backs? Are we staying on quarterbacks?
No. We can get in the running backs. Let's see. Who surprised me at running back this year? Well, I'll leave the one for you.
Well, you could bring him up. I got
No, I'm gonna be total homer comment here. David Montgomery. I think for the value that you could get David Montgomery in fantasy football drafts, I think he really produced, especially at the end of the season. Once Chicago saw that you hand him the ball 20 times a game, 15 to 20 times a game, he was going to produce, and he did very well. At the end of the season, I'm sure he probably pushed a lot of teams into the playoffs in their fantasy leagues. May have even won a couple of them,
including the Bears.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the season, I mean, when you get inconsistent quarterback play, a lot of times if if your running back's not a solid running back, you're just going to have an inconsistent team because you're not getting any running pressure on top of not having consistent play at quarterback either. And Montgomery was exploiting holes. He had that huge run against the Texans. He carved up Minnesota. Montgomery looked good, especially at the end of the year.
He came on probably the last quarter of the year. It was pretty. The month of December, right? I mean, he was pretty unbelievable.
And for a position that this year, more than any in the past that I've seen in fantasy football drafts, where running backs are just flying off the board, you could go a little wide receiver heavy in the beginning if you wanted, and then Montgomery was falling, 5th, 6th round. So
and especially behind that line, because that line is bad. Like it's a bad offensive line, and he really turned it on. And I think part of it was Trubisky. I think also coming back from the injury, he must have been maybe more injured than we thought. Yeah. So, Phil, how about you?
Oh, I'm gonna go with JTT.
Yeah, that's actually was the one I had.
Yeah, I mean, I know he was highly touted coming into the season, but I don't think anybody expected him to finish 4th amongst running backs. I mean,
he had
he
a
missed a game too.
Strong finish.
Very strong finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think going into next year, he looks like the guy, the clear cut. I mean, you still have Naheem Hines there, but I'm not worried about it. I think he's the lead back for sure. Well,
and especially because toward the end of the season, he started catching as much as he was running, and that's the secret right there for him. He's a great receiver.
Especially the knock on him coming out of school, too, was that he had stone hands, that he couldn't catch. He had 40 receptions across 4 years, or three years, I think, in college, right?
Crazy thing, though, watching a lot of Big Ten football, watching 3 games against Ohio State, I never felt that to be true. I felt they didn't throw the ball to their running backs, but when they did throw to him, he was an adequate or above average receiver. I never quite understood that thought.
A lot of people, people just look at numbers and don't, sit and watch the games.
Right, yeah. So my guy, because you took my guy, I was going to do JTT, but my other guy that really surprised me that I think right now, if he were to be traded, there'd be a tremendous amount of interest in him is Wayne Gallman. Like Wayne Gallman, he is a really good power back. I don't know that he's the fastest guy in the field, but he's great at running between the tackles, finding lanes. And he had a stretch in the middle of the season where I think he saved some teams who picked him off waivers. I think he had 4 or 5 games where he was consistently top 6 back.
And I think he'll still be in the mix next year with Barkley coming back from injury.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of solidified that spot. I think Freeman will be gone for sure, and they won't re-sign him. Maybe you draft a back late in the draft, but yeah, he seems like he's solidly there. And then if Barkley's slow out of the gate, he might
be at first.
Yeah, coming off the injury. I got to throw Robinson in there. I know
I was going to say, I thought that's who you were going to go with. Yeah. Secondly, I was going to definitely mention him before we went to wide receiver.
I was trying to leave him for you. I know you're a big
I'm a big Robinson
James Robinson fan. So, I mean, talk about it.
He honestly, 6th round pick? Or was he not even a pick? I think he was signed.
I think he was, undrafted.
Yeah, undrafted. You don't hear that story. And sometimes a running back has a season where it's lightning in the bottle, but they don't pass the eye test. But James Robinson passes the eye test. Bruising, has a chip on his shoulder. He's a decent receiver too, and he's running behind a bad line with a backup quarterback for the majority of the season.
Yeah.
I think once Urban Meyer becomes the coach and they draft Trevor Lawrence, I think it could be an exciting player.
Yeah, so here you go. He finished 5th in rushing yards, actually tied with David Montgomery for 1,070, and again missed 2 or 3 games, I think too.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're talking about a guy, undrafted rookie, who was 4th on the preseason depth chart before they traded Fournette. One of their guys went down preseason with COVID, and then maybe Zigbo was hurt before he
wasn't the number 1 back either coming into the season. It took like 4 games in before they officially really gave him that role, and that's when he took off. So
what happened to Chris Thompson?
Yeah, that was the talk. It would be Chris Thompson or anyways. What about receivers? What do you guys got for receivers?
Let's just throw Antonio Gibson in there real quick before we move on. I mean, how do you not mention Antonio Gibson?
He was a good year for rookie running backs when you talk about JTT, Gibson, Robinson, even Clyde to some degree. CEH was decent. Cam Akers was decent.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the season was so frustrating
terrible,
with Akers, but he came on at the end. But if we were throwing in honorable mentions, let me go back to quarterback real quick, too, because no one brought up Josh Allen. Josh Allen proved a lot of doubters wrong. They said he wasn't accurate. He couldn't pass. I think his completion percentage this year was 69%, top 5 in the league in passing yards.
I really want to see,
touchdowns.
Too. Oh, ton of I really want to see if this year is the aberration. Is this the high point, or is he going to continue on this pace? Because when they said coming out of college he wasn't accurate, they weren't wrong. And normally you can't teach accuracy. That's one of those that you either got or you don't.
Right.
So it could be great play calling, that's scheming it to where his guys are open, or it could be that he's really grown.
I mean, if you could teach accuracy just to prove the point, Tim Tebow would probably be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I mean, all the guy did was win. The guy had heart, unbelievable. But when you get to the pros and you're in the playoffs and you're overthrowing open receivers by 25 yards, you can't teach accuracy.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so moving on to wide receivers. There was a couple. I mean, it's not going to sound like a surprise, obviously, because we knew how the season unfolded. But for me, Stephon Diggs leading the league. Now we're talking about this guy being top 3 wide receivers in the league overall going forward. I didn't see that coming. I thought Diggs was probably a little overhyped in Minnesota. He split a lot of those targets, obviously, with Adam Thielen. I wasn't sure how he was going to do when he went out on his own. I kind of thought he was going to flounder, kind of like what Alvin Harper did when he left Michael Irvin. Harper said, "I'm a number 1 receiver." He leaves, and you never hear of the guy again. But Diggs proved me wrong. Diggs going out leading the league in reception yards, I would say, is probably, I think, the biggest surprise for me.
I think, Rocky, you were on that same train, too. I thought you were a little down on Diggs, right?
So Diggs, was really interesting because I watched him. He was heavily recruited by a lot of big-time programs, including Ohio State.
Went to Maryland.
Went to Maryland. It was a surprise. I think he was a Maryland kid, but he went to Maryland and then was average at best in college. Like, he never had the breakout season. And so that was kind of where I became down. But I'm wondering now, had he been in a major program with a better quarterback situation, if he might really have shown himself in college, because it's clear he's a great receiver. He runs
best
good
quarterback
routes.
he's played with his
Josh Allen.
career. Yeah, so.
Yeah. But he gets open without a doubt. He separates. He runs good route.
He's physical.
He's got it, and he's not a big guy.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not huge at all.
I was actually high on Diggs coming into the season, so I wasn't as surprised. But I will talk about the guy that took his spot, Justin Jefferson. I mean, drafted high, but this guy, he breaking Randy Moss's record in his first year. I mean,
he looked unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and to get the amount of work he did, he really didn't come on until maybe 3-4 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And
First couple weeks
Thielen still got his numbers. He was a number 2 receiver, and he just looked like a man amongst boys. Like he looked like a veteran. His route running, just his feel for zones when he's in a route. If you watch some of his tape, he looks like a veteran.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Big, physical for a rookie, and winning 50-50 balls, getting down the field and blowing away coverage. And I mean, you're talking about he's beat really good cover corners. Ended up shattering the rookie records in Minnesota, and I mean that's saying a lot. Randy Moss is probably one of the best to ever lace them up, and Justin Jefferson to do that. What pick did he come off the board? I can't remember. Which wide receiver?
20. I think he was the second.
Oh, yeah.
He went right after
There was a big meme because
Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, Philadelphia chose Reagor
at 21, I think. I could be wrong, but
so he was like the 5th or 6th receiver taken then, right?
Well, and in the draft, because remember it was a remote draft this year, they had a live camera of the Minnesota drafting team, and they were openly laughing when Philadelphia took Reagor, and couldn't believe Jefferson landed it there.
Yeah, look at the picks ahead of him. So Reagor, but I mean rookie season, right? And their wide receiver is probably the toughest skill position to play as a rookie.
Yeah,
Reagor bust. Judy bust.
CeeDee
I don't know
Lamb
that
did
Judy's
okay.
a bust, though. I don't like
Ruggs a bust. You know, these
Ruggs,
guys.
yeah.
Well, Ruggs dealt with injury all year. Judy didn't look great, but part of it was lack of a quarterback.
Drew
yeah.
Lock thrown to him.
CeeDee Lamb looked
good.
okay. Yeah. So
And lost his quarterback week. What was that, week 5? So
I mean, I think you're looking at Justin Jefferson coming off the board top 10 receivers next year, too.
yeah, for sure.
I mean,
yeah,
especially in
probably.
a system like that.
The guy that I would say that, and this is a little bit deeper than what you guys went, but there were no expectations on this guy. And Curtis Samuel actually, for a good part of the season, was a good wide receiver 3, scored some touchdowns, got a lot of touches, actually ran the ball more because C-Mac was out. And he finished not top 20, but right outside the top 20, which for a third receiver is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, he had a bunch of rushing touchdowns this year, too. They were just trying to get the ball in his hands any way they could.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Jacksonville did at the end of the season with Laviska Shenault, which they should have been doing all season long.
Yeah.
You know, there's just certain guys that are absolute playmakers that you have to get the ball in their hands. That's a good point. That's a good call with Samuel.
So let's talk about tight ends. I guess we'll hit that one, and then we'll go into our second question.
You're going to hit the tight ends?
That's what he does. He loves white tight ends.
That got past us. I can't believe that got past us.
Last night, Phil was talking about how all he wants is a white tight end for the Giants.
Yeah. Well, that was for
That's
the team.
exactly
not
what you were
me
saying.
personally.
I mean,
there's some
I think
reasoning
you call
behind
yourself Giant, but anyways. Go
Okay.
ahead. So let's talk about tight ends. Travis Kelsey was a
Surprise you?
surprise. Yeah.
It's funny because along the same lines, the name that I'm going to mention isn't a surprise because it's a big name knowing what happened this season. But Darren Waller for a second consecutive year surprised me because I thought he was going to have a pretty big fall off. He did very, very well last year. And, you know, it was thought that maybe he wouldn't replicate how many targets and how many catches he ended up with this year. But Darren Waller proved everybody wrong. Darren Waller came out and put in the work and got a second straight fantastic season.
I think he just proved you wrong because I think most other people thought he'd be like a
the
top
walrus.
3.
No,
tight end.
so there was a lot of knock on him, right? So a lot of how I'm judging these people are based on like how they go in the fantasy drafts.
Yeah.
And Waller, even though Waller could have gone probably right after Kelsey, dropped a couple of spots or would drop a couple of rounds, people not putting him in the wide receiver 1 tier, which you blatantly can with this guy, because his production was so great last year, he was due for a drop off this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had Kittle getting drafted too, who's not in the conversation, but
only because of injuries, and actually looked pretty good last week again.
Yeah.
So Phil, how about you? What tight end surprised you?
Robert Tonyan.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not? I mean,
Yeah, he was
That
the
came out of nowhere.
third tight end on his team, and absolutely
he
dominated.
finished top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He played all 16 games. Yeah, and we've seen that position in Green Bay not really be solidified, just kind of be a wild card, and he was actually consistent. I've always been kind of worried about playing. We could go through a laundry list of the guys that have played tight end with Rodgers, and
I would have thought anyway that Jimmy Graham would have done well in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And then, I thought maybe he would have turned back the clock a little bit there because Aaron Rodgers finally had a decent tight end to throw to. Fast forward, he's in Chicago now, and he actually put up really good numbers with Chicago, better than he would have, or better than he did in Green Bay with a worse quarterback, obviously.
yeah.
Maybe just wasn't utilized correctly there.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Chicago. I mean, I think we all were
That's
encouraged
actually-
by Cole Kmet,
That's actually my guy. That
but it was kind of
surprising.
so. I'll let you segue you in, but it's just funny how Graham did have a good season, but we've seen that kind of the roles change as the season went on.
I think you see the succession. Like I think Jimmy Graham, he's always going to be a good red zone target. But if you looked between the red zones, they were using Cole Kmet a lot more. I think he's starting to really fill the role. And honestly, I don't remember hearing much hype about him at all. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like, okay, they're throwing to this kid, and he's catching on. I think he's got I don't want to say, because last time we thought a tight end from Chicago was going to blow the doors off, it was Trey Burton, and people overdrafted him like crazy that year. But I do think Cole Kmet has a bright future ahead of him.
I think going into next year now, you got like a tight end's been weak for a while, but I think you're gonna have a nice
You got
top 8,
7,
9 guys that are really.
Yep.
If you throw Tanyan in there, Logan Thomas,
Hawkinson, Hunty
him,
Boo.
yeah. I
Hunty Boo Boo.
mean,
There's at
gonna
least
be-
3 or 4 that you can throw in almost in the wide receiver. Well, there's a couple that you can definitely throw in the wide receiver 1 category in Kelsey and Kittle and Waller. I mean,
Waller,
there's
yeah.
3. There's 3 guys that you can throw in the wide receiver 1 mix.
Just feel like it's going to be a stronger position group than it has been in a while.
Yeah. Which is nice because then you'll see them come off the board a little bit earlier in fantasy drafts, which may have your guys slide to you that you wanted to pick up running back, wide receiver, which is it's nice when that works out. But Kmet was one of those things. They were like a homer find. If it's your team, you know what to expect from him, and everything I had read on him. I knew he was going to translate into a really good professional. Yeah. He puts in the work. He works on his hands all the time. He's a fastest way on the field is to become a blocking tight end first, and they said that he can block. And I just knew that was going to get him in the snaps, and it worked at the end of the season.
Well, and I think
It's a good
this
point
year we
too,
have
about the blocking.
we have a couple tight ends coming out of college that I think could make pretty quick impacts too.
Hopefully the Giants draft one.
Well, the Ohio State, talk about a big white tight end that you
There you go.
tend to really dream about for your Giants there.
Yeah.
Jeremy Rucker caught 2 touchdown passes last week against Clemson.
No relation to Darius.
No.
Okay.
He's an amazing blocker. That's how you get on the field at Ohio State. Not only blocking for his quarterback, but downfield, he never shies away from a block to help another receiver out or a running back out. But he's got tremendous hands, 5-star prospect, 4.4 speed, and he's 6'5".
Wow.
So I think there's going to be 1 or 2 more that come out that are going to be that, which could help.
Well, who's Iowa putting out this year?
Yeah.
Iowa puts out a tight end every year, it seems like.
So let's go to now flipping the switch a little bit and talking about biggest bust at each position.
Want to just start with tight ends again since
Yeah,
we're there?
let's go.
Want to start from that end? We'll go
Yeah,
reverse
you
this
go.
time.
Yeah, that sounds
Go on,
good.
Rocky.
So, I only put, there was two I was kind of torn between, and it's not his fault, but George Kittle, just where he was drafted to be out for the majority of the year, I have to classify him as a bust. So,
Yeah, and in crunch time too. If you're taking George Kittle as high as you take George Kittle, it's because you're taking George Kittle to get you into the playoffs.
yeah.
And you're there at playoff time, and Kittle's out, and he lets you down, and that's tough.
I'll go Evan Ingram.
Yeah, your favorite.
Openly protesting him being on the Giants next year. I mean, this guy, for the talent, the upside that he has, I mean, the guy was just terrible and just hurting the team all season. If we're just talking regular, for just watching them every week, he's not very sure-handed at all.
Now he seems like he can't.
He can't catch the ball. The guy is
Just an important thing for a tight end. I mean, you want to be a good blocker.
I mean, I was
but
showing him a reel of just this year how many balls he had goes through his hands, and Rocky's really familiar with
On the
that.
field
so
or off
that's
the
why I
field?
showed him.
Yeah.
No, well,
I was
both.
I was all county tight end. I just want to point that out. There,
Wow.
so.
It's making sense. But hey, he was terrible, and then you just talked about Kittle, right? And Ingram had one more fantasy point than him in double the games.
That's
So
pathetic.
how ridiculous is that?
That's
and this is a
pathetic.
guy coming to the season you could argue is, after that first tier tight ends, he was right there in that next 3 or 4 guys that you expected to maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was just terrible.
Wait, say
And
that stat again. What was it?
He had one more fantasy point than Kittle with double the amount of games.
Kittle missed 12 games, I think, right?
Kittle played in, where is it? 8 games this year.
Okay, that's more than I thought.
Ingram played all 16.
Well, and that's I didn't think he was out for that many. Wow, it's
He was, week 2 he went out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he came back and tried to play a couple times, but didn't get much. Mark, who's yours?
So I have a couple, and going off of what you were saying earlier, Rocky, just draft format. So in that top 3 tight end, those talks early in the season, Mark Andrews was one of the top 3 tight ends routinely taken off the board in fantasy drafts. And if Andrews was your guy, he let you down this year in a big way.
Yeah, he had good games, but not enough.
Yeah, he only had, I would say, a handful of good games would be a generous call. I mean, he was putting up some stinkers all season long. And then Zach Ertz. I mean, there's another one. You were talking about a guy in the top 5, right outside that power 3, that Ertz is going early and often, and Ertz threw up a ton of stinkers too. I mean, let's be fair. All of Philly threw up all their skill positions, threw up stinkers. I mean,
disgusting.
you can even count on Miles Sanders, who you thought was going to get all the work. Because
Terrible city.
for
as
like
well.
3 or 4 weeks there. It was Boston Scott. So
I'm going to push back a little bit on the Mark Andrews take. And I just get why you think he was a bust, because I'm looking at his finish. He missed 2 games, but he finished 12 points behind Tanyan and slotted in as the 4th tight end this year. So if you think you took him as expecting a top 3 tight end, he finished 1 spot out of.
I think when you took him, though, you took him thinking he was going to be just like Travis or
Well, I didn't
Kittle.
think that.
I mean,
Most
he
people.
finished
I think
strong.
if
Well,
he's
that's
always
just-
been kind of touchdown dependent, so
So-
I didn't expect him to be Kelsey.
I want to look this up only because I would say that all of his success this year probably came across a 3 or 4 game span, which isn't going to be enough to get you into the playoffs if that's where if that's why you're drafting him that high.
It was for me.
Well, you also
I also beat you twice in 3 weeks.
originally drafted your team when there was only 6 teams
It's
in
not
your
true.
league,
I started with 10.
and I had to just for reference, my stud that I had to pick up this year was Kenyon Drake, for crying out loud, and somehow I still got in the playoffs.
Well, he was the 11th finished running back, so he wasn't bad.
Again,
So-
somebody who started off terrible, and I'm surprised he finished 11th.
You picked him.
so what do you?
It was like him or TJ Yeldon. I mean, who are you going to take?
TJ Yeldon still in the league?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So is Amir Abdullah.
I knew that.
Yeah. So
Haven't seen a TJ Yeldon.
while you look
sighting
at
in a
those
while.
stats, let's go.
Figure that out over there.
Let's go to wide receivers.
We're done with, yeah.
Who was your big bust?
Say that one more time.
Who was your big bust in wide receiver?
Got it. Hold Well, there's a few, but I would say Juju Smith-Schuster
Damn you and taking my picks.
finished
Look at that.
22nd overall. I mean, and I've been down on Juju too. I mean, coming into the year, I thought, ever since Brown's been gone, he hasn't looked like the same guy, and that's just the truth. As much as hated Brown talking crap about him not being able to be in number one, I think he was right. I think we kind of learned over the last 2 years that Juju is a slot guy that needs a guy to pull coverage on the outside of the field.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Juju is a really, really talented number 2.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a need, but it's not. People were drafting him. They thought he would be a number 1.
It's kind of tough to be a number 2 wide receiver on a team full of number 2 wide receivers, though.
Yeah.
That is true.
Well, and you picked a game for which one's going to do what, My big bust was Emmanuel Sanders. So, I don't think you drafted him thinking he was going to be amazing, but I know a lot of people that picked him up once Mike Thomas went down. Same offense, and I expected him to be a wide receiver too, and he was not. He was ineffective and just not very consistent.
I think Breeze being out hurt him a bit, but I guess it doesn't really matter. How do would you guys call Marvin Jones Jr. a bust? It's just
Yes
what we expect
and no.
from Marvin Jones, just to kind of be hyped up. He's he's like the guy that you look at him like he should be a top 10 receiver.
You can make that same argument with AJ Green too, though. How much hype are you really buying into a guy that's been in the league 9 years?
That's true. That's why I'm asking. Like, I feel like saying he's a bust, but it's kind of like this is Marvin Jones, right?
All right, let me defend myself real quick with Mark Andrews.
Oh, go ahead, go for it.
Only 3 games with over 75 yards receiving.
Yeah.
It was a down year for him. 4 for 27. He had a big game. 7 catches for 61, not even 10 yards a catch. 3 for 22, 3 for 32, 2 for 21. It just seemed like 3 for 22, 1 for 29.
What's the touchdown totals though?
7.
Okay,
7.
so
But this was, outside those top 3, like this was kind of a down year. I feel like
it was a
tight
down year,
ends.
but if you relative to the tight end field, you might have guys that were more consistent with getting 4 to 5 catches, but they probably didn't put up 7 touchdowns, and he finished. The numbers are the numbers. He still finished 4th overall. I guess depending on your roster, if you had a roster
there's something
built.
to be said, and see, that's what we're talking about Marvin Jones. I think it's a similar season. So Marvin Jones actually was finished as a top 5 receiver 3 different games. So there was that promise, like you could see it.
He finished 15th overall.
Right, and that's the issue to me is like he got you some number 1 games. He has the talent, but not enough of them to make him a great player.
Marvin Jones finished 15th
Overall, yeah.
Did he really? Wow.
But he was helped greatly because
Galladay was out.
Holiday.
But he still he finished. But and I get your point. What I'm saying, I think maybe it comes to your roster, like the team I had him on where I made the playoffs. I didn't.
How many times are you gonna let us know?
The team I made that he was on that I made the playoffs. I didn't need him. He played well for me on that team. I didn't need him to be Kelsey. So his weeks, he had a nice floor where I was getting 7 to 8 points if he didn't score a touchdown.
Right.
And then he popped up when I needed him to. So,
similar to like what Hunty Boo Boo did for me on a lot of my teams. So the point, you bring me to my point that I'm making. So instead of reaching for Andrews at that point, you may have been better off taking your 3rd wide receiver. Even getting a guy like Juju, because Juju surprised me. He had 97 catches this year, which I would have never guessed. I didn't realize he was targeted that often.
Yeah.
But, that's where you go out and you potentially get a 3rd receiver that separates you from all the other teams that don't have a 3rd receiver, and then coming back and then still picking up a value tight end that isn't the Mark Andrews, but, maybe it is the Hunty Boo Boo.
that is a fair point. I guess I'm thinking of it in terms of dynasty where I wasn't selecting this year, but all right, yeah. Are we still we're on wide receivers, right? I think, or are we done with wide receivers?
Yeah, no. I gotta throw one out. Both of you guys threw them out there, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Well, aside from the obvious, Julio Jones, Mike Thomas, guys, that didn't get it done for you this year because they were out all year. Will Fuller going out. God, when you need Will Fuller the most, right before
that killed him because was really coming into his own
Yeah.
as a top flight receiver.
He killed me. I could have really used him the last like 4 weeks of a cumulative league where I finished only 60 points out of first for $20,000 overall prize.
Gosh.
And a guy like when you're pulling 17-point games with that receiver, that Fuller could have maybe put in. He had a couple of great games where he's scoring 30 points or more. Kind of he disappointed me at the end of the year. But I would have to say if I was going to pick anybody, I got a lot of them listed here, guys. I'm going to go with let's go with Julian Edelman. Edelman being that person that you thought he was going to be for Cam Newton, that kind of, was that rock that knew the offense. Cam Newton coming in, trying to make his mark in New England. You're figuring Edelman's going to be the guy, right? Edelman's going to be the one that gets him out of all of his jams. He's going to catch everything over the middle, and being out all year just absolutely killed a lot of guys where they drafted him.
You see him, he's a mid-30s wide receiver,
Yes.
injured 2 out of the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think it might be sayonara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, I know it's funny because I just made the comment about, how much can you trust the Marvin Jones 9 years in the league, but here we are, trying to trust Julian Edelman, 52 years into the league or however long he's been there.
And I think Cooper Kupp, we don't have to talk about him long, but he wound up not even finishing top 30.
Yeah.
And Robert Woods was firmly top 20. So, I mean, that was a little strange. Thought they'd be a lot closer.
All right, let's go to running backs. What do you guys think about bust for running backs? I'm going to let Phil steal mine.
Well, sure. I was going to go Eckler, but just injury. I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
The guy's injured. I mean, I think he's still the guy you want to have going into next year. But injury just derailed him. So if you took him early and you lost him, that was a big blow. Luckily, my team was pretty well built and I was able to sustain. But yeah, that was tough. And I think Elliott, was kind of a letdown. He finished 11th, but like you were saying about Andrews, you kind of drafted him to
be higher
be a difference maker on your team, and I don't think he really was.
I mean, you can't even overstate that enough that you're drafting Zeke in the top 4, top 5, expecting him to finish in the top 4, top 5. So when he finishes 11th, that kills you because that takes you outside the top 10 running backs. So it takes you outside the first round, even if everybody drafts running backs. And then you throw in all those wide receiver ones that should have been drafted ahead of him too. It's a killer. I mean, unless you make it up in the second and third rounds with studs.
And thankfully this year there were a lot of running backs that actually broke out that maybe were unexpected, so you might have caught a break, but it doesn't change the fact that Zeke still was a letdown.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
What about you, Mark?
A couple that I thought were letdowns because early in the season before they were both traded, they were still getting drafted decently high. The middle tier running backs, before you start really scrounging around looking for running backs. Le'Veon Bell and Fournette. So, you thought maybe Bell would have a comeback year with the Jets, system not being the greatest. You thought maybe he was going to, catch a lot of balls out of the backfield and do decent, possibly have that rebound year. Just, didn't come to fruition. Goes to Kansas City, works behind CEH, and then even when he was involved in the mix, you could tell that it was just, I don't know. I have a tough time trusting.
Pass the eye test anymore.
Yeah, no, I have a tough time trusting him ever since Pittsburgh. Now, he
Well,
had that holdout, and
it was a system. Coming out of college again, Michigan State player, good player in Michigan State, never great, didn't have the speed, good hands, but not great hands. It shows you what a system can do to a player. Because Pittsburgh, and they've made a lot of receivers and running backs look really good. And that leads into mine, because to me, mine is James Conner. Finished 25th in the league at running back. I don't know that there was a game this year that you started him and felt like, this is good.
Right,
yeah. So he would have been mine, and that's, to me, if he can't look good with that coaching staff and that system, then you're not a good running back.
That's fair.
that's a great point.
I feel like Miles Sanders is a bit of a letdown as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Devin Singletary, another letdown. I think just because Buffalo just changed the script with Stephon Diggs this year. They finally unleashed Josh Allen and thrown all over the place.
Well, and honestly, I think you could say Zach Moss looked as good or better than Singletary.
Yeah.
You know who? James White. I mean, this is in a PPR format, a guy that you could count on the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Just disappeared. And I did not expect that with Cam there.
I didn't expect that at all.
I mean, I thought he would get more work.
Yeah. I got him right.
That was pretty surprising.
Guy. Yeah. He was non-existent this year. And, to be fair, in past years, you wouldn't hear from him for a couple of weeks. Then all of a sudden, Tom Brady's hitting him 11 times for 140 yards and a couple of touchdowns out of the backfield.
And he did have a game like that this year. He had one game where he kind of broke out, and you're like, okay, maybe this is – I don't know. Cam looked completely lost back there. He just looked like a different quarterback from the Cam that, we thought was, an all-star. So.
Yeah,
Cam was always good, getting outside the pocket, scrambling, and being able to throw on the run or making something happen with his legs. And it's not. It's not the Cam that came in.
Shoulder shot is what I think.
Could be.
You see him throw the ball. It looks like he looks like Phillip Rivers almost. And I know Phillip Rivers, that's how he throws, but Cam didn't throw like that prior to that shoulder injury. And
it is a pretty awkward delivery.
A lot of dirt balls. So we're talking about quarterbacks, so let's just roll it up. I mean, Lamar Jackson finishing 10th. Nobody drafted him to finish 10th overall quarterback.
Nope.
People thought he was going to be a league winner like he was last year. And, I mean, to fall to 10th, and, he had to rally at the end of the year to break the top 10. I think he was a big letdown for a lot of people that, went out on a limb and drafted him early along with Mahomes. I think Mahomes, he finished 4th. I don't think that's where you wanted him to finish either, but
but I
felt
own
much
him
better about that.
I own him in several leagues, and he never cost me a game. Like, there was one game where he had truly a bad game. The rest, he was 20 to 25 points. He didn't always look great getting there, but I think I'm going to be okay with that most times.
I think if you drafted him in the 3rd round, to his point, instead of taking, Chris Carson, or your 3rd or 2nd wideout, that might have affected your roster. Like, we're thinking with the dynasty setup, you have him on your team. He's kind of, you'll take that. But what you gave up in a regular draft to take him early, because you had to go get him early.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Because, you're operating under the premise that you're going to get QB2 numbers tied with RB1, RB2 numbers. And it's one of those dual point situations for quarterbacks that are pretty hard to come across. Much like what Josh Allen filled that role this year. There's a couple of them you throw his name in the mix this upcoming year for guys that you target for that kind of statistical output.
I do think there'll be people that will chase Allen, and I think it's going to be hard for him to repeat this season. He could still be really good, but every year there's a breakout quarterback, and it seems like it's a different quarterback every year.
Yeah, and it's tough to be so consistent for so long, like a Drew Brees or an Aaron Rodgers. It's
how about
task.
Do you have a quarterback that you were really let down at?
Much of it probably not his fault, more so than the cast of players going down around him. But Stafford, I think Stafford let me down this year. You're not drafting him in the first 5 rounds like you are Mahomes and Lamar Jackson.
You're hoping that you get him in 7th round, but he's going to be a value.
Yeah, but you're still drafting him to be your quarterback.
Yep.
You're not drafting him to try and draft a second guy to maybe split the time between. You're drafting him to be your guy, and I feel like he severely underproduced this year. But no Kenny Golladay, right? No Kenny Galladay's got all the skills in the world to be top 10 wide receiver. Hopefully he comes back strong. And hopefully Stafford comes back strong, because I even like his personal story. But, this year on the field, I just think that he let us down in the fantasy world.
My guy, and I'm surprised you guys left him for me, was Carson Wentz. I actually drafted him, or I got him as a free agent.
I forgot all about him already.
Yeah, I paid $30 in our dynasty league for 2 years, and then by luck I traded him about a week before the season, but he actually had 4 games where he finished with single digits.
Yeah.
It's hard to do as a quarterback.
It's really, I mean,
You're throwing interceptions, yeah. So to me, he finished, I think he was number 22. And I'm surprised he finished that high. Honestly, I was shocked.
It's pretty bad.
When I saw that.
Yeah, only 2,600 passing yards.
3 years ago,
Yeah, he was lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
16 TDs versus 15
TDs.
picks.
Yeah. Not good.
Not good at all.
All right, so we're going to, I guess that's our wrap up for that, and we're going to do our last question, and that's going to be, and this should be quicker, but our best trade of the year that we made.
I'll do mine first because I made one trade this year, and I still like the trade I made, but it wound up biting me in the ass because the guy I traded with, I wound up playing him in the playoffs. I think I traded him Stephon Diggs and Aaron Jones and received a first-round pick and a second-round pick, and that was to replace the first-round pick that I traded for DeAndre Hopkins. So I netted DeAndre Hopkins and the first and the second-round pick for Stephon Diggs and Aaron Jones. Now, I was high on Diggs, but I was higher on Hopkins, which is why I opted for Hopkins. And like I said, it got me to the league champ. Not the league championship.
Semifinals.
The semifinals. But I lost by 1 point to a guy I traded Diggs and Jones to. So I mean,
You can't
it's a little bit of irony.
You can't really kick yourself for that, though. I mean, potato, because Diggs won Hopkins, too. I mean, if you're going to trade Diggs away.
Well, I think what hurt him was the Aaron Jones.
Yeah,
Aaron Jones ended up doing pretty good.
Well, I could have probably got the trade. It was my insistence in replacing the first round pick. If I would have just been able to part with the first round pick, I could have had Hopkins, Diggs, and Jones. But I made that, and I had to make the money work because he was pretty expensive. But
So what about you, Mark? What was your trade?
So I've referenced that independent defensive player league that I'm in before. So I was the conference champ 2 years in a row, this being the third year coming in that the league was in existence. I made a trade that was not very popular with everybody in the league. I took a lot of shit for it. But the first 2 years, I rode Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey to the championship both years. So I unloaded Christian McCaffrey this year, right? Which took a lot of shit, obviously preseason for it. But the ironic part is I traded Christian McCaffrey, who ends up out all year, for Kenny Galladay, who's out all year, Cortland Sutton, who's out all year, and a first-round pick that I turned into CeeDee Lamb, which was good.
Yeah.
But then I turned around and I flipped Cortland Sutton and a couple other pieces in my lineups or in my lineup to net 6 first-round picks next year in that league, which is dynamite. And 4 of the picks were, four of the worst 6 teams in the league.
So now is this when you're drafting regular NFL players, not rookie draft?
So no, going forward, it's all rookie draft now. So this league, you run like you're a GM. So it's same way like our league. So it's years, it's salary cap.
Right.
You have a taxi squad, but you're also drafting defensive players too. And it's 16 teams per conference and then 2 conferences. Now, each conference obviously drafts from the same pool. So, the reflective team in the other league may also have Christian McCaffrey if you do as well. But obviously in your 16-team conference, you're the only one with them. So, the caveat is drafting the defensive players too. So with 6 first-round picks next year, I'm looking to hopefully
get the best. Yeah.
I also unloaded Sutton in that trade. I forgot to say to the guy that gave me Hopkins,
and that's not a good move, except for that he was hurt all year.
Yeah.
So
I hope he comes back next year like he looked like he could be last year.
So my trade, and I took a lot of crap because I recommended that people trade Derrick Henry, and that looks like a stupid move.
Yeah.
In a vacuum, it is a stupid move.
Stupid move.
Yeah, but I should have explained why it made sense for me.
Yes.
I was in a dynasty league where you're a GM, and Derrick Henry was on an expiring contract.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to have him next year, and I didn't have enough to make a run in the playoff.
Or so you thought.
No, and it proved to be true. Because what I traded for him, I got Brandon Cooks, who ended up being a pretty good receiver, especially after Will Fuller went out.
Unfortunately.
David Montgomery, who is signed for 2 additional years at $4. So it's a cheap running back that I feel good about for the next 2 years.
So reference that against how much was Henry?
Henry was $140 for 1 year.
So
Yeah.
that's why you do it.
Yeah. And I also picked up the number 1 pick in the rookie draft, which is going to be the number 7 pick. So I think in the situation where I was speaking of, and I should have been clear, it made sense to trade Henry. Even with Henry, I wasn't going to make the playoffs this year. And if I had, I don't know that I would have gone deep. And the person who I traded this to didn't, actually lost in the first round of the playoffs. So next year I have the option still of bidding on Derrick Henry again.
Man, was the rest of that guy's team garbage? Because Henry had his best 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of the
So it was
playoffs.
really odd. He also got the other receiver for Seattle, not DK.
Lockett.
Tyler.
Yeah, he
Lockett.
also got Lockett
And
off
Rodgers,
me
right?
and Waller off me.
Lockett.
And he still lost.
They still lost.
Wow.
So, but anyways,
Hey,
that
but
was,
that's important to note too. It's a good, for you guys that trying new league formats and stuff like that. Just the value that different players hold in different formats, not just scoring system, but just how the league works in general.
right.
Always want to pay attention to that, and we'll be putting out some more content to address all those different types of leagues here in the off season. Pretty excited about that.
All right. So,
We're gonna go picks here, right?
yeah.
And we are we gonna do that little playoff format?
Mark, you want to do? We're right at an hour here. Do you want to do the playoff format, or do you want to go right into the picks?
What do you
Good
think?
call.
I don't know. I don't know that we have the. If we end up doing this, we're probably going to run to about
Okay.
an hour 25.
So let's go into our pick section then. And last week, I have to explain this because I kind of made some mistakes, but I was 3-1 last week, so I am at 25-12 for the season. Phil was 2-2, and he's at 21-16 for the season. Antone was 2-2, so he's 15-14. Mark was 0-4 last week, and he is 7-10 for the season.
That's what you get for betting with your heart.
That's right. Yeah. And Delano was 1-3, and he's at 15-17. And Shawnee, who kind of came on the air and talked like he knew what he was doing.
Didn't know.
Didn't know. He actually finished 0-4, so he got every single one wrong. So he is not America's fantasy fan, but it's pretty sad.
That is apropos. That's for you, Shawnee.
So I'm gonna
Actually, found out he doesn't own a television, so
really.
might be part of the reason.
Okay, so I am going to cue our music, and we're going to start the picks. And I think that what we're going to do is pick every playoff game.
Yeah, we can talk about them a little bit. Don't be scared to talk about it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Did we get our picks from Delano or Delano? Delano.
We did not, but
Or
I will.
Tone?
I will
We'll
get
them.
them.
Okay, retroactively.
It's only week 17. Still can't get his name correct.
Delano.
I'm just it sound. I told him to his face. Think Delano sounds better.
I don't think it does. I think Delano sounds a lot better.
Sounds like Delano. Delano's like a Milano cookie. It's nice. No. All right.
I mean,
Whatever.
I'm going to diet, and now I'm hungry.
you
Thank
know
you.
we're on this Harry Styles weight loss challenge.
Yeah, I
right?
know.
You shouldn't be talking about Milano cookies.
They're good.
All right, so let's go first
Dark
game.
chocolate sea salt.
Oh, I know. I know all about them now.
All right, I'm getting a little emotional here.
Don't take it easy.
Talking
Keep it
about
in your
cookies.
pants.
That's the reason why my scale coughed when I stepped on it.
Yeah.
All right, who's starting? Let's just start with Mark.
Colts versus Bills, and the Colts are getting +7.
I'm going. Man, I'd love to say that I hate Indianapolis, but they just seem to be in every game. Buffalo strong. I'm going Buffalo.
I'm also going Buffalo. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. And I'll tell you what, over the last 7 weeks, they're averaging over 30 points. They rolled the Dolphins, who I think are a better team than... What are you laughing at? What's so funny? I want to know.
Nothing. I'll tell you later.
So they rolled The Dolphins.
I suspect you.
I don't. I really don't. But like I said, they rolled the Dolphins, who were playing for a playoff spot. Matt Barkley came in there. They still put like, was it 48, 51 points?
Yeah.
So yeah, firmly in the corner of the Bills here.
Yeah, I feel like could be a trap game, but the number of points is what kind of scares me a little bit, because I do think the Colts could maybe keep it close, but I think you got to pick Buffalo. So that's my pick. Next game is going to be the Rams versus Seattle, and the Rams are getting 3.5 points.
This is probably the easiest of all of them for me to pick. I'm going with Seattle. I don't think the Rams have looked good at all. Do we even know if I don't even know if Jared Goff is playing? It might be. Yeah,
that's the only question. I mean, but I think that's kind of baked into the spread here.
I think Seattle has one of the most potent offenses in the NFL, and they know how to play playoff football. So I like them here.
What's your pick, Phil?
I don't know. I'm still racking my brain about it. Rams have been up and down. Seattle's offense looked great, but it hasn't been great last few weeks. Man, the thing that worries is just not knowing if Goff is going to be there. So I will.
What's the one name in LA that sticks out that you think could be a difference maker to swing it towards the Rams?
It's the defensive player.
Is it
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's what's got
and
you stuck.
and Ramsey too, man. I think the combination of them having a guy to lock up that number one guy, it makes a difference. I just it's if the Rams come out and play like the good version of the Rams, they can easily beat Seattle at home. So I don't know, but I'll probably, just because the uncertainty with Goff, I'll go with Seattle.
So I'm looking to separate a little bit.
And if Goff was playing, I'd probably take the Rams here. Honestly.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Rams, banking on if Goff starts. So if later in the weekend, if I realize he's not, I would go Seattle. But if Goff is there, I think they're going to actually be close enough.
So you're going to change it, you're saying?
No, I'm saying.
Okay.
But I'm saying
sign me up for that.
I'm putting it on record that if Goff it doesn't play, I would have switched. Like if we knew today that Goff is definitely not playing, I would have gone to Seattle. But we don't know that. So
you're saying you're taking the Rams because Goff isn't playing?
No, I'm taking the Rams because
expecting him
Goff
to play. Okay.
Okay. Tampa Bay versus Washington, and Washington is getting 8 points, not 80.
I'm going Tampa Bay here. I think Tom Brady's a little too savvy in the playoffs. We've mentioned before Washington's offense not being a threat in the playoffs. Their defense, obviously, playing like top caliber defense, but I think Tom Brady's a little too savvy for that. He's got too many weapons. I think Mike Evans does end up playing. It looks like it was just a hyperextension of the knee potentially. And I mean, when you have Antonio Brown as your wide receiver 3, you're doing something right at the end of the day.
Alex Smith cannot move his foot up and down. If he had to move his foot in the pocket, he can't make a throw. The Eagles were trying to lose that game. They blitzed him sparingly. I think the Bucs are going to blitz him from the minute they get off the bus. I don't even see them being close to in this game. So 8 points I'm not really worried about. Tom Brady, no sweat. Here in Washington, he's used to the cold weather. Only thing I worry about is the time of the game, as we've detailed this year. But I still think they're going to get it done.
4:00 game.
It's a later. I think it's at night.
Yeah. See, so it scares me. I'm picking Tampa Bay, but it scares me because they kept Atlanta closer than they should have last week. I think Atlanta's got a little bit better offense for sure, but man, 8 points is a lot. But I'm going to go Tampa Bay. Browns versus Steelers with 3.5 points.
Who's getting?
And we might not know exactly who is starting for the Browns. We know that there's going to be some COVID. I think
COVID
it's losses.
It's 6.5. The 3.5 is the Baltimore-Tennessee game.
Okay, so we're going.
I think it's Pittsburgh's minus 6.5, right? Isn't that what we said?
Yeah. So they got the Steelers to win by a touchdown, basically.
Yeah.
At home.
Wow. Okay.
I'll let you pick this first. You're the Browns fan. Rub the elf.
I'm going to pick the Browns just because
You have to.
You
It's
can't
playoff
pick
time.
against your boys.
You can't pick against your boys.
You got to go down with that chip.
They need all the positive juju they can get. Rub the shit out of that elf for the next.
So this
10
is what I
minutes.
will say. If Nick Chubb only carries the ball 12 times, they will lose.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
agree.
frustrating because Stefanski is not going to be there. Calm plays.
Yeah.
He's got COVID, which scares me a little bit for any kind of adjustment. But he's an analytics-driven guy almost to a fault. Last week, Chubb was getting yardage. He was getting 3.5 to 5 yards every time they ran, especially on the outside. But the analytics say that play action worked better, and so he kept falling into play action. But against a team like the Steelers, whose defense is incredibly disciplined, you're not going to win with play action. Like, that works against lesser defenses, not against the Steelers. So that scares me, but I'm going to believe that he's going to run the heck out of Chubb, and they're going to win.
I imagine he's probably going to learn his lesson from just playing them last week.
Yeah.
I like the Browns to at least cover this spread. I'm kind of up in the air whether they'll win the game outright or not on the road. The Steelers, for everything they may or may not be, there's still a legacy, a history there. There's a feel.
And Roethlisberger knows how to beat the Browns.
Yeah, it's tough. So I don't know that they'll win, but I do expect them to keep it closer than a touchdown.
Yeah.
Mark, how about you?
I'm in the same boat Phil is here. I think Cleveland covers, but something tells me that Pittsburgh wins in heartbreaking, nail-biting fashion because Roethlisberger does know how to beat the Browns.
And their secondary is awful.
Yeah, and I mean, they, like we said, they have a team full of wide receiver twos. I mean, he's got a ton of people to throw to. He's got a lot of weapons. Cleveland's got to be on their toes. I think they're going to have to really pressure Ben. Garrett's going to have to get Ben to the ground a couple of times in order for them to be successful. But I do think Cleveland covers.
Well, and they had Olivier Vernon tore his ACL, and he quietly got 9 sacks and was out 4.5, almost 5 games.
Oh wow!
So he was about to get a big contract. I feel really bad for him. So
He had a big one. So. He'll be
all right, Ravens versus Titans, and the Titans are getting 3.5 points.
I'll go first. I got the Titans in this game. I just think they kind of laid the blueprint last year on how to play these Ravens. The thing with the Ravens is they're bullies, like I've said earlier in the year. If they can get up early, they could play their game. And it's similar to the Titans, but I do think that Tannehill could throw the ball around more if they need to than Jackson can. Tennessee knows how to play them. They showed it last year. I think they won't let them get up early. I think if they win the toss, they'll take the ball. And I just don't believe in the Ravens, not against the Titans. I think maybe a few other matchups I feel more confident with the Ravens, but Titans getting points at home, give me them.
Mark?
This was one of those ones that I feel is a no-brainer too. I couldn't believe the Titans were getting points here. To piggyback on what Phil said, I don't think the Titans just wrote the blueprint for how to beat the Ravens in the playoffs. I think the Titans kind of built a blueprint for how to just win, period, in the playoffs. And I think they have a really good formula. When you have a guy like Derrick Henry, I mean, it's work on passing at that point. I mean, when you got a guy that can just run at will, I mean, just make sure your passing game is solid because he's going to get you your yards, right? So I think Derrick Henry's going to have a big game. I think that Tannehill is going to manage this game very well. And he's got some sneaky talented receivers, even ones that aren't named A.J. Brown. I think Corey Davis does very well. The tight end, Jonnu
Smith, yeah.
I like Tennessee here getting points.
I
like them
feel like
outright, but I like them with points.
I feel like they're similar in the way they're built, but the difference to me is out of the two teams, if one of them were to get down,
They have a competent passer.
I think Tannehill has shown since he's been I think he's third in yards and touchdowns since he took over the starting spot. Irregardless of what he did in the playoffs last year, whatever that was, he still has shown the ability to throw his team to a win. I don't think Lamar Jackson could do that.
Yeah.
So I could have Tennessee go down 10 points and still feel like they'll win that game. Same thing happens to the Ravens. I think Tennessee and Mike Vrabel know how to. They'll just eat the clock, let the game just tick away, and win the game. So
I have the Titans too, but I'm a little bit less sure than you guys. The reality is, as much as I don't like Lamar, he's looked like a different guy the last 4 weeks. They've let him loose, letting him run, which that's the only way he's going to be a quarterback in the NFL and be a good quarterback is being allowed to run and improvise. I don't know. And this is the same Titans team that let the Browns get up 35-7. So their defense is suspect. But I am picking the Titans with the points. And the last game is Bears versus the Saints, and the Bears are getting 10 points.
You know what's unbelievable about this? And not just because I'm a Bears fan, but this, we try to highlight trap games every week. I think Chicago's going to win this game outright. I really do.
But you also thought that about the Packers game.
Shut up, Rocky. So, fair. But I do think I think Chicago matches up better with New Orleans. Plus the fact that Kamara is still practicing remotely. Michael Thomas, we don't know if Michael Thomas is going to play. And then what kind of Michael Thomas are you even going to get? There's no chemistry right now with Drew Brees. Drew Brees is banged up. Chicago's got a great front four that can get push. You get Brees to the ground a couple of times, bang those ribs up. I mean, now you're looking at Taysom Hill coming in, who has even less experience with Mike Thomas, and having to pass the ball. It's going to be a tough task because I don't know how much Taysom's going to be able to run on that defense. Chicago has been suspect to the run in the past, but I think they're going to draw a pretty good playoff scheme here. And Chicago just looks like one of those. It's hard to explain, but they look like a playoff team. They look like a team that's built for the playoffs, right? It's that manage the clock, think and dunk, keep the ball, no turnovers, score when you can, hold the defense, get the ball back, right?
Yeah, and we don't even know if Alvin Kamara is going to be playing.
Might not even play.
Yeah, and
they get 10 points. I mean, I liked them outright. When I saw that they were getting 10 points, I was like, man, what does Vegas know that I don't know? Because it seems like an awful lot of points to be given.
Well, and their backup running back is a scrub from UCF, so F. Sean Blackburn. That's right.
The Bears, right? Since the start of December, that offense, 30 points, 36 points, 33 points, 41 points, and then they had a little bit of a dud against the Packers here with 16. But all in all, that offense has become probably one of the more consistent offenses in that month, and pretty explosive. Montgomery's come on, all that jazz. The Saints, they are who they are, but this team with Nick Foles, with that offense playing terrible during the season, took the Saints in New Orleans to overtime and had to be beat by a field goal. And I think they're much better now than they were then. And I just don't believe. There's something. I don't think Breeze is right. And
you don't break 11 ribs, 11 of your 26 ribs, and
I mean he wasn't great before that. The Thomas thing, Kamara, how good is he going to look? Where's his conditioning at coming off the COVID? There's just so many questions. I think it's a prime. This is the trap game, especially with 10 points in the air. I mean, they're playing better football to me than the Saints are right now on offense. And if you have to stick Taysom Hill in there, that defense is still a pretty solid defense. I don't know. 10 points, I don't understand.
You're going Bears.
Yeah, I'm going Bears.
Yeah, and same reason, 10 points. It's just way too much. I think that the Bears, at the very least, will cover. I don't know if I'm going to call for the outright win, but I am going to call for the Bears to cover that and take the Bears. So there's not a lot separating us this week.
Is it one game?
One game. I chose the Rams. So you and Phil will live and die together. So
did we went the same picks, huh?
Yeah. I guess all those talks in the driveway and the garage are paying off for you guys.
Must be. We're connecting.
We've had some talks in the driveway and
on a
garage this week,
spiritual
too.
level.
To be fair.
We were with paintbrushes, though, like men. We weren't. I don't know what you guys were doing.
Were you there yesterday when when he was getting hit on by the?
No, he wasn't. He didn't.
By the single mother.
When he's fathering the new children? No, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Come on in, kids. I'll build
Listen,
you a butt wrap.
I'm telling you, I know what the game is.
What game? So you think she sent the kids over there?
No. I don't think that. But I think once she came over because she thought maybe I'd let my kids hang out with a pedophile, then she understood, oh, wait, there's a sugar daddy.
But why do you think she was interested in you? I really want to know, too.
Listen, I've been around enough. I'm old. So there's a vibe they give off when the eyes light up when they understand. Oh, whoa, there's some money here.
What did she see?
She saw?
You weren't dressed
She
great.
saw money, buddy.
Okay.
Were you in a tank top and some cut off jean
No,
shorts and
I was not.
you had a sweet glisten from
I had
the
a
chest
T-shirt
beards to
inside
the-
out.
Yeah, you look
and
terrible.
and a muddy, muddy pair of Adidas. But anyways, guys, that's our show today. We want to thank you all for watching, and as always, you can find us on the ultimatefantasylockerroom.com. You can find us in any of the TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We're all over.
YouTube.
You can find us YouTube.
Please.
everywhere.
Like us,
Subscribe.
Please
give reviews.
join
Yeah.
us. We'll have a lot of off-season content for you guys.
You know what I know, my arms open, heart broken, fixing filled with this empty and broke. Oh, know what I know, hearts open, arms open, when I sin I fall straight to my knees.